Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. And this review is going to be on this past Tuesday's edition of Smackdown, which was the July 23rd edition. And this Smackdown was from the American Airlines Arena in Miami, Florida. And I gotta say, this week's Smackdown, I thought it was a good show, in my opinion. Wasn't a perfect show by any means. It still had its problems. But still, it was a good show, in my opinion. I think SmackDown's build to SummerSlam, this build towards SummerSlam, is going really well for SmackDown, unlike on Raw. But let's get on with the SmackDown review. So, SmackDown this week opened up with none other than, Kevin Owens saying, oh, he takes up so much TV time, than, the superstars, some of the superstars on the roster. Of course, SmackDown opened up with Shane McMahon. So he came out, he ended up saying how the Raw reunion was an amazing show because they paid homage to legends of the past and superstars of the present. Shane ends up going on to say one face he was glad to not see on the reunion show was Kevin Owens. He ends up saying, where was Owen? Where was Owens? And he says Kevin Owens, was yapping on social media all, on Monday night during the Raw reunion. And Shane ends up bringing up Owens' challenge for SummerSlam because there was a video that WWE put up where Kevin Owens was saying, I want to take on Shane at SummerSlam. And if Shane wins, Kevin Owens is quitting. So Shane ended up bringing up that, the challenge that Owens mentioned for SummerSlam. And he says, it wouldn't be complete without the best in the world. So Shane ends up accepting that challenge. So at SummerSlam, it's going to be Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon. If Shane wins, Owens quits. And, Shane also brings up, Owens' promise to quit if he loses. And he ends up saying that wasn't the first time that Kevin Owens said that he quit. If you remember on Raw, I think it was last year, and Kevin Owens was, sitting in the middle of the ring. He was sitting on the chair, and he ended up saying, "I quit." And then he came back, like a week later. So he just walked out. He didn't quit. That actually happened, last August. It was on Monday Night Raw. So Shane ended up playing that footage. And Shane, after the clip was over, Shane says if Owens quits if he wins, if Shane wins, he wants it in writing from Kevin Owens. And he ends up saying Kevin Owens is going down at SummerSlam. And he's going to make sure of that. So Kevin Owens came out. He ends up saying that Shane is smart. And he has no problem admitted that was the lowest point of his career. And he says that wasn't actually him. He ends up saying that was the broken down Kevin Owens that just did whatever to get along. And he says at SummerSlam, he's not going to quit because he's going to beat the living hell out of Shane. He says maybe they don't even have to wait until... Owens ended up saying, we don't have to wait until SummerSlam. So Kevin Owens ended up, coming down to the ring. Shane ends up telling Owens to back off or he won't get the match. And he says, Shane ends up saying that he's all fired up. That Owens is all fired up. So maybe Owens should have a match. So Shane ended up making a match tonight again, with Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Obviously, that does not make any sense because both Kevin Owens and Roman are baby faces. So, doesn't make any sense. It was stupid for them to make that match. And so that was the other segment to open SmackDown. But it was just the same old, with Shane. Then we had Shane McMahon. He was walking backstage. He ran into Elias and Drew McIntyre. And McIntyre says Shane really outdid himself with the Roman Owens match. And Shane ends up saying that he wants to go one better. He ends up saying that a match like that needs something special. How about a special guest referee? So Drew McIntyre ends up being the special guest referee for that match. And they were like, oh, how about we get a special guest timekeeper like Elias? So Elias ended up being the special guest timekeeper. And he's like, just to really make sure it comes off right, they need a special guest ring announcer. So Shane was the special guest ring announcer. So there you go. We had that, and it was the main event. By the way, guys, I'm doing this review. Before Smackville tonight. It's already 8 o'clock when I'm doing this, so you might see this, a little bit later. But I'm not gonna do a Smackville review because it's only an hour. But if anything good happens on Smackville, I will possibly do a review on it. But don't count on it. Only if something interesting happens, I'll do a review. Because I know there's talk about there's gonna be a title change at Smackville tonight, which that title was fucking stupid. The Smackville title. But back to the SmackDown review. Just wanted to, get that out. So we had the first match of the SmackDown on Tuesday. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Apollo Crews. And this was a good match. This was a fun match between the both of them. Of course, you had Apollo Crews. He was really enjoyable, even shocking here in parts of the match. Apollo Crews ended up coming off of that match that he had in NXT last week against Kushida, which was a very good match, very awesome match. And Nakamura ended up getting the win. Kinshasa to Apollo Crews. So Nakamura ends up winning the match. Then we had, after the match, Nakamura ended up kicking away at Apollo Crews. Ends up knocking Apollo to the floor. He ends up taking Apollo up the ramp. And Nakamura ended up hitting another Kinshasa to Apollo. And that's what happened post-match. But all in all, fun match. It was a good match between Nakamura and Apollo Crews. Very entertaining. And Apollo surprised here in parts of the match. Then we had Mandy Rose. She ends up approaching her best friend, her tag team partner, Sonya Deville. And she ends up saying that they've got a tag match next week where if they win, they'll get a shot at the women's tag team titles. So, wonder who they're going to take on next week. So we got that to look forward to going into this upcoming week on SmackDown. Then we had Mustafa Ali promo. I have to say, if they keep making Mustafa Ali do these promos, he's going to be the next Aleister Black, where Aleister Black ended up cutting these promos, in the back, every single week. This is. I have a feeling that Mustafa Ali is going to be the next Aleister Black. We're cutting like these promos for 2 months, and we're not going to see Mustafa Ali get back in the ring in the next 2 months, just like how they did with Aleister Black. So I sense that happen. I sense WWE doing that. But Mustafa Ali cut a promo. He was talking about how he needed to rewrite his story after his injury earlier in the year, which cost him everything. Because apparently, if Mustafa Ali didn't get injured, he was supposed to win the WWE Championship. Like that, like all the stuff that Kofi has been doing, the whole Kofi Mania thing before WrestleMania and everything. That was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. So because of Mustafa's injury, that cost him everything. I mean, he could have been the WWE champion with the way everything is going with Kofi. So Mustafa says he's going to put that pen to paper, and the paper is going to read, Ali becomes WWE champion. And he says he doesn't care where they are. Nobody is writing his story but him. And he says he's going to go down in history for his story. So it was a decent promo from Mustafa Ali. Although, like I said, I have a feeling WWE is going to make Mustafa Ali cut all these promos for 2 months, just like how they did with Aleister. I may be wrong on that. Who knows? So then we had The Miz come out for MizTV, and he ends up running the recap package for the Raw reunion, which happened on Monday night. So after that recap was over, Miz introduced his guest for that MizTV. And his guest was WWE Hall of Famer, the Heartbreak Kid, HBK, Shawn Michaels. And originally on the Smackdown, Shawn Michaels was supposed to be a guest commentator throughout the whole night. But apparently, WWE changed their minds and put him in this MizTV segment. And for the night, because Byron Saxton wasn't on commentary because his father passed away, which my thoughts and prayers go out to him. So they had the New Day on commentary for the first hour of SmackDown, and they did a pretty decent job, Xavier and Big E. Sorry about that, but I was saying Xavier and Big E, they did a decent job on commentary for the first hour of SmackDown. So Shawn Michaels came out. He was the guest on MizTV. Shawn Michaels came into the ring, and he says he's been on both sides, both the young guy and the legend who's coming back, and that he gets both angles. So Dolph, it should have been me, Ziggler, came out. Dolph said he had enough of these so-called legends limping out to the ring. Just happy to be there. And he has to be put out of his misery if he ever ends up being that guy. So Miz ends up threatening to punch Dolph, but Shawn Michaels insists on giving Dolph a moment to get whatever it is off his chest. Dolph ends up saying that he used to idolize Shawn Michaels, and he had a chance to ride off into the sunset. But what has he done? He's talking about Shawn Michaels. He says every chance he gets, he comes back out here and shuffles and waves to the crowd. And he ends up saying that it's embarrassing. So Dolph says Shawn Michaels broke his heart last November. Remember, he's talking about what happened at Crown Jewel, where it was Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus The Undertaker and Kane, which a lot of people didn't like that match, but I enjoyed it. Wasn't that bad of a match, though. But so Dolph ended up saying that, and he says he'll say it to Shawn Michaels' face. He was embarrassing. And so Shawn Michaels says he won't disagree. It was embarrassing. And he says what's more embarrassing is working his whole career, giving everything, and still being left with nothing, but being known as a second-rate Shawn Michaels wannabe. There you go. Shawn Michaels calling Dolph a Shawn Michaels wannabe, because Dolph ends up using the super kick just like Shawn Michaels. And Dolph says the only second-rate Shawn Michaels out here is Shawn Michaels himself. And he says both he and The Miz have ruined their legacies by selling out and kicking ass. And The Miz ends up getting in Dolph's face, telling him to just do something already. So Miz says he's sick of Dolph complaining and moaning. He says, in WWE, you make it you. And he says, do something about it. Sorry about that again, but like I was saying, The Miz was saying to Dolph, do something about it. And all three of them end up dropping their mics, and taking their jackets off. And Miz ends up, leaning in for Dolph to do something. Dolph ends up walking away. Dolph ends up slapping Shawn Michaels, but Shawn ends up ducking. Dolph ended up going to slap Shawn Michaels, but Shawn Michaels ended up ducking, and Miz ends up, taking it, and he hits a super kick to Shawn Michaels. Dolph ends up super kicking Shawn Michaels, and Miz ends up chasing, Dolph, but Dolph ended up getting away. That's how the segment ended. But I say this was a good MizTV. This was a really good segment. With Shawn Michaels in there, you can't go wrong with HBK. And it looks like maybe they're going to set up. Who knows if they'll do it? Shawn Michaels versus Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam. That might possibly end up happening. But if it does, I am all in to see it. I am all in for that match. Because I know it would be a decent match between the both of them if WWE makes that official. So then after that we had Ember Moon versus Charlotte, which was only like a minute match because Bayley ended up coming out. She ended up distracting Charlotte. Ember Moon got the win. Schoolboy pin on Charlotte. Ember Moon wins it. Post-match, Ember ends up tossing Bayley in the ring. So it was kind of like a heel type with Ember, which she's not. I don't think she's fully like a heel because of that. Because she ends up tossing Bayley into the ring. Charlotte ends up booting Bayley. And we see Ember on top. She ends up hitting the Eclipse to Charlotte. Then she hits another Eclipse to Bayley. So that was pretty much basically what happened post-match. But Ember, to me, it's not a heel turn, in my opinion. So I have to see more, for me to say, oh yeah, Ember ended up turning heel. So, but it was only a minute match. That was it. So then we had, after that, Kofi Kingston made his entrance, and he was coming out to announce who he is challenging, who wants to challenge him for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. And he says he wants to call out Randy Orton, to have a face-to-face to challenge him. And so, Kofi says he picked Orton because they've got a lot of history. And Orton was out there. So Orton came out, and that's when Kofi says, that they've got a lot of history together. And they show a clip of what happened in 2009, on November 16, 2009. The match that they had at Madison Square Garden, which was a really good match in front of a sold-out crowd. Yeah, I guess that, they were saying that because WWE is having a hard time selling out tickets for the upcoming Raw and SmackDown. That's going to be at MSG in September. Raw is going to be at MSG on September 9th. SmackDown is going to be at MSG the next day on the 10th. So, the tickets, haven't been selling out quickly for that. Who knows? I may go to Raw on that night. Hopefully, thinking about it. But that was the only reason why they said sold out. Because of with WWE not selling, the Raw and SmackDown show not all selling out of those tickets at MSG. So he says that was the night that he whipped Orton's ass all over the arena. And he says if he needs a refresher, Kofi, he says if he needs a refresher, and Kofi ends up playing a recap of that boom drop off the barricade from that night, where he did the boom drop off the barricade and he put Orton through a table, which that was a really good match. I can't believe that match happened 10 years ago already. I remember watching that match on that night. It was a really awesome match between the both of them. And so Kofi says that moment still gives him goosebumps to this day. He ends up saying because that was supposed to be when he made it to the main event. He says, but that's not what happened. Is it? Is it? And he says Kofi wants to talk about, the truth, what really happened. And Orton ends up saying that he was doing Kofi a favor because he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready then, and he's not ready now. He says the title is a fluke, and he comes out here and brags about how hard he's worked for 11 years. And Orton then takes a jab at Kofi, saying that he didn't need to fake a Jamaican accent. You all remember Kofi used to fake that Jamaican accent when he first came into WWE, when he made his debut on ECW. So you all remember that fake Jamaican accent he had back in the day. So Orton makes reference to that, and he says Kofi just needed to be himself, and he wins matches and titles and main events at WrestleManias. And he says at WrestleMania this year, it's only because of Orton that he even had a shot, because he's the one that injured Mustafa Ali. So he ends up saying, that Kofi doesn't deserve the title, and he could take it whenever he wants. And Kofi wants to put that to the test at SummerSlam. Have it be Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. Sorry about that again. I keep getting interrupted. But I was saying it was now going to be Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam, which Orton accepted. And he ends up saying when it's all said and done, Kofi's fairy tale will come crashing to a halt, courtesy of the RKO. That's how the segment ended. So, official now. Kofi versus Randy Orton for the title at SummerSlam. Then we had Kofi versus Samoa Joe, which was a decent match. You had Randy Orton sitting out there on the floor. And during this second hour, Michael Cole was on commentary. Yeah, like we can't get enough of Michael Cole, after hearing him for 3 hours on Raw. So, Orton was, like I said, on the outside. He was watching the whole match. He was watching Kofi's every move. And the match ended in a disqualification because Orton came in. He tried to RKO Kofi. Kofi ended up reversing it. Orton then hit the RKO on Samoa Joe. And Kofi then ended up hitting the Trouble in Paradise to Randy Orton. So that's basically what happened. All in all, it was decent from Kofi and Samoa Joe. Then we had Kayla Braxton. She was interviewing Finn Balor. He was being interviewed about, the rough patch that he's been going through as of late. He says he doesn't know how Bray Wyatt's mind works. And he doesn't know if he's selling an old score or if he's here for something new. He says he can't explain any of his new gimmick. He says Bray is more twisted and messed up than ever. He stared fear in the eyes before, and he's not going to back down now. So Finn ends up, wanting to challenge Bray Wyatt to a match at SummerSlam. And then we had an episode of the Firefly Funhouse, which plays on the Titantron. And I liked how this was done, though. Bray ends up saying hi to Finn, and Bray was, of course, the Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt, that he does on the Firefly Funhouse. So Bray says hi to Finn, and he ends up calling him Brave. He ends up saying that it's inspiring, and that's why he and Mercy and Ramblin' Rabbit are such big fans of Balor. He says the Fiend, however, isn't such a fan, and the Fiend officially, accepts the challenge. He says the Fiend is no man. The Fiend is an abomination. The Fiend is power, and the Fiend remembers. So I liked how the way this they incorporated, a Firefly Funhouse here for Balor, Bray Wyatt there. I thought that was kind of cool. So, but it was a decent segment from Balor, and like I said, the whole Firefly Funhouse thing, I like that. So then we had Sarah Schreiber. She was going for an interview with Charlotte. Charlotte then rants about all the slaps in the face that she's been given lately, up to, and she says she's including being left off of SummerSlam. She says she demands to be at SummerSlam, and her opponent will be better than Ember Moon, so she can prove why she's the greatest female superstar of all time. Charlotte, you may be good in the ring, but you are not the greatest female superstar of all time. She's a good wrestler, but she's nowhere near the greatest female superstar of all time. That's my opinion. Then we had the main event: Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Of course, Elias was the special guest timekeeper. Shane was the special guest ring announcer. Drew McIntyre was the special guest referee. And like I said earlier, this match made no sense because you got a babyface and a babyface going at it. So Elias ends up, Roman ends up hitting Elias with a running knee. Shane ends up recovering, and he directs Elias and McIntyre, and taking out Owens and Roman. He ends up calling for Roman to be put in position, but Owens ends up running after Shane. Super kicks were thrown to Elias and McIntyre. Roman then ended up hitting a spear to McIntyre. And Owens ended up hitting a stunner to Elias. Shane comes back in the ring. Roman delivers a Superman punch to Shane. And then Owens ends up hitting a stunner to Shane. And, the crowd was chanting, one more time, one more time. So Owens then ended up hitting another stunner to Shane, which the stunners that he hit on Shane this week were a lot better than last week. Which, if you remember last week, Shane ended up botching one of the other stunners. So Owens ends up getting on the mic and ends up saying, if you think tonight was good, just wait until SummerSlam, because everybody's going to love the ass whooping he's going to hand out to Shane on that night. So that's what Owens ended up saying. And that's how pretty much SmackDown ended. Like I said, all in all, SmackDown this week was a good show. Wasn't perfect. Had its problems. But it was a good show. And it did its build towards SummerSlam pretty well. So anyways, that's it for my review of SmackDown for this week, for this past Tuesday. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, I'll see you all later.